cases. As we wrap up May, so ends National Stroke Month.
In this week's Doc Talk, CBS 21's Lyra Greenberg spoke with an unlikely stroke candidate who wound up having a stroke a few years ago.
Kevin Stout has a new lease on life after suffering from a stroke at just 52 years old. Since none of his lifestyle factors played into his having a stroke, it took doctors some time to figure out what caused it. They wound up finding what could have been a much more serious issue.
The following segment is sponsored by Geisinger Holy Spirit.
Meet Kevin Stout, 52 years old, a runner, a pastor who spends much of his time talking to people. Not the typical kind of person one expects to have a stroke. But one day in November 2015,
when I was typing, my thoughts didn't get from my brain to my fingers. And that seemed very weird.
He tried explaining that to his wife, but all that came out was gibberish.
My oldest son luckily said, "You're having a stroke." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, then we got to go to the hospital." I said, "Yeah, I know. I can't be laying here."
Turns out they were right. It was, in fact, a stroke, one that doctors were able to control very quickly.
They were able to give him the clotbuster TPA, and he was already beginning to improve as they were giving him the TPA.
Within an hour, I could speak again.
Test after test, and doctors still couldn't understand what caused the stroke. Stout was in great health, and then they found it.
And it turned out that he had a hole that he was born with in the top of his heart.
A month later, Stout had a minimally invasive surgery to close the hole. Stout says finding these holes was a godsend.
Grateful that they, since it was a speech one and I'm a pastor, I kind of talk every week for 10 to 20, 30 minutes. I need my speech.
In honor of National Stroke Month, Geisinger Holy Spirit will have a clinical team at the Senators game this Friday night at 6:30 for Strikeout Stroke. They'll be offering free blood pressure checks, stroke education, games, and prizes. And Kevin will be throwing out the first pitch at the game. We'll have more information on that on our website, cbs21.com. With this week's Doc Talk, I'm Lyra Greenberg, CBS 21.